Hello, you guys, and happy Wednesday, happy day before Thanksgiving. It's me, Dr. Cindy, your Johns Hopkins Yale trained physician, scientist, virologist, who's also the medical director and laboratory director at the Nevada Fertility Institute in sunny Las Vegas, Nevada. I know it's been a while since we've seen each other, guys. It's been weeks. How have you been? How have you been? As for me, I'm doing well. All things considered, it's been a very busy 2020. It's certainly, we put up our tree today at the clinic, and I was struck by the fact that this time last year, when we were putting up the tree, etc., there's absolutely no way I could have predicted what 2020 actually brought. And 2020 was an interesting year for all of us. I'm sure you'll agree. It certainly was a year that tested us in ways that none of us could have imagined, even remotely. And so I just wanted to come in today to say hi, early happy Thanksgiving, say a special thank you to my friends, our patients, our community of supporters, to give a quick summary of the year and what I'm thankful for as Cindy Duke, the person, Cindy Duke, the family member, Cindy Duke, the doctor of medicine, Cindy Duke, the virologist, and Cindy Duke, the businesswoman. And so I wanted to just say hi. Hey, Dr. Kelly. Hey, Jamie. Hi. So happy to see you in Genesis Rising. This is one of our local surrogacy agencies. Hello, Gerdine D'Alembert. Nice to see you. And so, I'm here really just sharing what I'm grateful for in 2020 to extend the wishes of the season to you guys, but also to be here as a virologist, a friend, a sister, hopefully a trusted personality in your life, to remind you guys to remain safe, not to get complacent in any which way as we go into the Thanksgiving holidays, the beginning of the winter season, the cold season, flu season, all juxtaposed into what we also are faced with, which is a COVID-19 global pandemic. So yeah, I'm grateful for so much this year. Like I said, when 2020 started, I had a bunch of plans, a lot of hopes for myself, the clinic, and a lot of that changed by February. Remarkably, Nevada Fertility Institute has managed to stay open all year, despite the initial shutdown that we had following the American Society of Reproductive Medicine's directive. We have managed to take the steps needed to ensure safety for the staff, myself, our patients, and resume full services. And we're still conducting full services at the clinic. We are doing IVF, we're doing inseminations, we're doing ultrasound, we're doing blood work, we're still doing virtual visits. I envision us continuing these virtual visits for a very long time into the future. And people are getting pregnant. I'm really, really grateful this year, knock on wood, because so far no member of our team and no patient who's actively in treatment has become positive while coming to the clinic. And I really think that's a testament and a huge credit to all the work that we've been doing at the clinic. I recently saw a review from a patient who said that she felt like she was being attacked with a gun when she arrived at the door, which is not true. It's a thermometer, one of the thermometers where you just scan the temple, a temporal thermometer. I did think that description was rather extra, but perception is all that counts, and so she perceived it as that. But yes, we are taking all the steps necessary. So we do questionnaires every time before a visit. We call patients the day before their appointment or the business day before their appointment. if we're going to be closed for the weekend or a holiday. We have everyone who's starting cycle get tested. We are very clear with all of our patients that if they were to become exposed or were to, when I say exposed, I mean a known exposure. If they were to develop symptoms during treatment, we would have to stop their treatment, wait for them to get better, wait for them to complete the required 21 days, get repeat testing, and then if they're negative, then they can come in and resume treatments if their exposure has changed. And we've been able to do that and manage to keep everyone safe so far. And, as a fertility clinic, that's important because we are taking care of not just people who are attempting to get pregnant, but we take care of women who are pregnant in their first trimester. And so I really, I want to say thank you to my patients and everyone who's come to our clinic, who's heeded the warnings, who's followed the precautions, who wears their mask appropriately, who makes sure the nose is covered, the mouth is sealed, and follows instructions, who uses the gel, etc. We haven't had people put up much resistance to that. And I thank you because we're really using best practices when we do these things. I also thank everyone for their honesty. I recognize that you could lie to me. You could tell me you didn't have exposure, but no one has done that. Everyone has been very honest. Our patients have really collectively understood that this is about not just their own personal well-being, but that of the clinic staff and their fellow patients and other women, men, and people who are seeking services at our clinic, including some of our cancer patients who are coming in to freeze their eggs. Everybody has been very respectful, mindful, and has followed through. So I really appreciate that. And I think that's really what I'm most thankful for in 2020 is I am most thankful for everybody's health, for everyone who's taking, hi Lorraine, hello Lolo, how are you? How's winter? Hi Verlin, hi Joan, but I really am very grateful for everyone who has been following the precautions, taking it all seriously, and thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm especially going to say thank you to my staff and our team. At NFI, we're a big team. While you are interacting with our clinic, you probably only interact with one or two people. And so I know for a lot of people, they're under the assumption that the clinic doesn't have a lot of people working there or that we have a lot of turnover, neither of which is true. We have a pretty deep staff. We also have many long-standing staff members. Our longest serving staff member will be 4 years working with us, and that's not me. She's 4 years working with us in February. We have a number of nurses who are on the 3rd year of working with us. So why am I bringing that up? Well, I think it's because it's to help dispel rumors, because I think sometimes if a patient doesn't see a particular staff member that they're used to, the presumption is, oh, they're gone, oh, there's a lot of turnover, none of which is the case. In fact, one of the things we've had to do during the pandemic is really be very flexible because as things have changed, a number of our staff members have families. So they've had to also adjust their own lives to accommodate the changes for virtual school for their children, the changes required for their multi-generational families, because some of them have multi-generational households. And we've managed to work together, each and every one of us, to find something that works for each member of staff to keep them happy, keep them employed, keep them getting the benefits, et cetera, that they need to survive in this chaotic time and these chaotic economic times, and still keep everything working. This year, we've, with growth comes growth curves. So we've introduced a few things like a two-way texting system. We've introduced a number of systems to really help with communication, and that's worked great. So I'm really happy. So to Team Nevada Fertility Institute, for every member of the team, past, present, and those who may be joining us in the future, thank you for all of your hard work. I am grateful for you. I will be saying an extra prayer of thanks for everybody as I gobble tomorrow. Okay, now to the Dr. Cindy front. This year was really busy for me outside of the usual pandemic things. As my mom joked a lot this year. She finally understood what my PhD was for. Can you guys believe that? After all these years, Mama Coco in the year 2020 finally understands why I spent the years from 2003 through 2008 working on a doctor of philosophy in microbiology, immunology, with a focus on virology and viral vaccine biology. Um, I've always seen my work in virology as being a very important field and area. And once I resolved that I was going to go into the world of reproductive endocrine and infertility, and for me, mind you, I made that resolution while I was still in medical school. I applied to residency knowing that I wanted to be an REI. How sure was I? The very first sentence in my personal statement when I applied to my OBGYN training programs was, I plan to go on to become a reproductive endocrinologist, infertility specialist. Why did I do that? I wanted it to be clear to any program that I was applying to what my goals were. Because at that point, I was a 30-year-old woman. I understood where I was headed. I knew what I wanted out of life. And I wanted to let programs know, I'm coming into your program to study OBGYN, but I'm also coming in with every intent to go on to become an REI. And so if they were to read that and say, nope, she's not for me, I didn't want them reading the whole statement before they knew what my goals were. So yeah, I knew that going in. And I knew going in that my PhD would play a big role because I knew how unique my training was. I knew how much genetics and how much virology included gene therapy and what vectors means and working with viruses, what that really means for overall health. But I also firmly believe that the viral genome and the viral landscape actually plays a bigger role in reproduction and human biology than many of us know about until we're sick. And so that was really important to me when I applied. So lo and behold, right, I made this fateful decision to become a virologist in 2003. And 17 years later, there's a pandemic and, I'm talking about virology and people are like, what? You're a virologist? How is that possible? An OBGYN who's a virologist? How is that possible? Are you sure you're a virologist? Yes. I know this because I studied with some of the best people in the world to do that. But, one of the things I'm grateful for this year is I really think that training is also part of why I can credit the amazing results we've seen so far at our clinic in terms of patient safety, et cetera, is I was quickly able to use my training, use my knowledge base, but also quickly go through the literature and really apply things. Back when people were still saying, oh, it's just a flu. And I'm telling people, no, it's not like the flu. You can't say that. No, herd immunity will not apply here. This is not the case. Don't say that you're just going to leave your people to get herd immunity. This is not how this family of viruses work. It was coming not just from me trying to speak. And I know to some people, this package is odd, right? She, a virologist, she, a PhD trained virologist. Yes, I am. And so it's really important, I think, for people to know that this year, it was like a panacea, but I really am grateful for being able to apply what I learned and being able to share it with the world and to make some meaningful contributions to how people approached the pandemic. For those who remember, in the beginning, I was going live very frequently because I wanted to share all the newest updates, but to also help allay the fears of so many people. I also felt very strongly that I wanted to do my part to help prevent xenophobic acts from happening. I didn't like the narrative that was starting, oh, this is the China virus. It just so happens that China is where we saw this one pop up, but viruses can crop up anywhere in the world. When it comes to emergent diseases, viruses will always be one of the biggest groups of infective pathogenic agents that we have to look at for the rest of humanity. And so, it's not because it came from China, this is a China virus. anywhere this had originated would have become a problem for us across the world. And we have to remember that. So it was important to me to get out there and start talking about it and to really let people know that there are people who understand this stuff who are working on it, to let people know the confidence I have in people like Dr. Fauci, who I have had the privilege of knowing about since 2003, and how dedicated people like this are to the work and that they do, and the contributions that they've been making behind the scenes to science, safety, without anybody knowing. It's certainly clear to me this year that a lot of people really never gave much thought to viruses. As a matter of fact, for the average person, the only virus they kind of know about is the cold, which they mistakenly call the flu, and vice versa. So I think, it's really key that everybody remembers just how far we've come this year and how much we know now. We've gone from not being sure about how the virus works to now understanding a lot about how it works, understanding a lot about what it's going to take to contain it. Now we just need people to start listening, wearing their masks, and when you go see your family, do the same. Here, this is a picture of me in the laboratory. Well, actually, it's me in the operating room superimposed on an image of coronavirus. And it's me wearing the mask, and I'm smiling because you can smile while wearing a mask. You can breathe while wearing a mask. And I really think there's an incredible amount of misinformation that got spread out there where people now believe that masks are dangerous. They're not. I would tell you guys that while I was working on my PhD in the virology lab, I worked with viruses that included herpes type viruses, vectors. We gutted the herpes virus of 150 kilobase pairs of DNA so that it can encode other things. We worked with recombinant adenovirus vectors, which is similar to the viral vector being used by the AstraZeneca company, the Oxford trial. We were working with DNA vaccines. We didn't do mRNA, but we were doing DNA vaccines in the laboratory. Amongst other viruses, we were working with vaccinia, which is like a weakened form of the smallpox virus. We're working with SHIV, which is a fused virus that contains components from HIV and from the simian or monkey version of the virus, which is SIV. We worked with viruses that can infect bacteria. Can you believe that? Yeah, there are viruses that specifically infect bacteria, known as phage. And so we were working with all those. And the way we worked was complete PPE, head to toe. I spent 4+ years in the laboratory, dressed head to toe in PPE, wearing masks for hours on end in my 20s. It didn't compromise my brain. It didn't compromise my health. I didn't develop a respiratory disorder. I didn't develop a breathing disorder. None of the other 13 people in my laboratory developed any issue like that, nor did any of the other almost 100 people who were in other laboratories on the same floor as we were, because we were on the virology block. Nobody had that. Why am I saying this? Because there really is too much misinformation out there about masks. There's no carbon dioxide that's suffocating somebody. There's no, it's a mental feeling. Yes, it takes practice and conditioning to learn to breathe in and out with something over your face. But these things are designed to exchange oxygen, exchange air, while trapping particles, including viral particles, so that you don't breathe them in, but also you don't breathe out contaminants, or in this case, coronavirus, into the atmosphere. And then when I finished my PhD, I went on to do an OBGYN residency, which is a surgical specialty. And I've been wearing masks since then as well. Again, you hear me talking, I would hope I'm impressing you enough to realize that I'm not slow. I'm not mentally compromised. And I wear a mask almost every day for hours on end. I have to learn my sides here. For hours on end, that's me wearing a mask. And so I really think it's important for everyone to hear this, recognize this, and know that they're safe, because it's the only way that we're going to be able to help ourselves while we wait for these vaccines. Okay, so yes, I'm grateful that we're all still around. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to contribute. I think we all would love that we learned something and we're able to use what we've learned and what we've dedicated our lives to helping society. Certainly, it's why I went to medical school. It's why I did a PhD in a field that has a very big global health and population community health aspect to it, because I felt strongly that I wanted to be able to contribute. Do I think this is going to be the last pandemic ever? No, but I hope we learn a lot from this that we can apply going forward. I think we all learned that we're not very good at following all the instructions. I think we all learned that we like touching our faces. We learned that we really like touching and talking with each other and, interacting with friends and having close proximity to friends and family. And so I think we've learned a lot about ourselves as humans, in so much as this has been a rough year, in so much as there's been a lot of death, a lot of unanticipated death, a lot of loss, whether it be loss of life, loss of function, loss of jobs, loss of economic stability. I think also, though, nonetheless, we've all learned something about ourselves. And so I'm really happy that we're all going to be able to take away something that we learned about ourselves that we probably, hi, Dr. Renee, that we probably wouldn't have realized before. Hi, Roslyn. Happy Thanksgiving. And so I'm very grateful for that. That said, I think the biggest thing that I'm thankful for is those vaccines. So there are a lot of good things happening in the world of vaccines. And you guys probably saw one of my more recent blogs where I said that it's actually a good thing that we have multiple candidate vaccines in the pipeline. I also emphasize that a lot of these are what we're going to ultimately 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the road refer to as the first generation COVID vaccines. We've had very promising results from Moderna, which is one of the companies making the mRNA vaccines here in the United States. We've had a lot of reassuring reports from Pfizer, which is another company making the mRNA vaccine candidate, a different one. And we've heard reassuring things coming out of Oxford, England, and AstraZeneca, which is that British/Swedish company. And so it's important that they're doing their work. I would tell everyone, don't be so eager to rush to say we have everything we need. They're still working on figuring out these vaccines in terms of who will be the ideal candidates, what age groups will be appropriate, what dosing will be necessary, whether we need to get it once, whether we'll need a booster shot, and for how long would it be effective once we got our vaccine. When it comes to who gets the vaccine first, that's still being figured out. You've heard me saying since March that once a vaccine is available, it will go to the people who are highest risk, which would tend to be healthcare workers and those with certain illnesses and certain job descriptions, like our military. When it comes to pregnant women and those seeking to be pregnant soon, these vaccines probably won't be available to you right away because there's so many things that have to be checked off and crossed off before they're giving to what's called the most vulnerable populations. And so it's important. Ian Levine said, we have been hearing lots of conspiracy theories about vaccines. Yes, and that's unfortunate. There's one circulating, a really bad rumor that's worrying me because even some people within the medical and health industry have been reading it and thinking it's true, which is, oh, this vaccine will give you HIV. It will not. Some people are saying, oh, this vaccine is just a way so that the big conspiracists out there can get the special chip into you. There are some thoughts that, oh, Bill Gates and the other wealthy people. None of that's true. I think it's going to be really hard to convince someone who thinks that's true that it's not true. But what I would tell you is if you're on the fence, no need to get on the fence. Come back off. These things are not true. There is not some grand conspiracy to come put a chip in you. It's way cheaper to put a chip in you with other things than to concoct a virus and get the whole world sick and kill so many people. No, there's no chip. Okay, guys, there's no chip. You're not going to get a chip in the vaccine. You're not going to suddenly become radio controlled, right? They're not doing this to control you. So they're doing that, but you're walking around with a cell phone, your smartphone. Come on. No, really, you're safe. Take it, save your life, save your family. Hi, Lunice. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. Thank you. I try. She says, looking gorgeous as usual. But it's important, absolutely important. Hi, Dr. Ian. Greetings from the Cayman Islands. Greetings to you too. I think it's really important that we remember how easy it is to concoct a rumor. Whereas for science, you're seeing, right? We can't just say we have a vaccine and just give it to people. It has to follow protocols. It has to be tested. The data has to be shown. So right now we're excited because Pfizer and Moderna have said they have really promising results. We, the scientists, the Food and Drug Administration, all of the regulatory agencies, the epidemiologists, the biochemists, the vaccine biologists, everyone's waiting to actually see the data, right? So we're happy to hear that their internal reviews have been promising, but we're all waiting to see the results. We really want to see the data. We want to crunch the numbers ourselves because that is how the peer review process works. And I want to encourage you guys that it will work. That will happen. The peer review process will take priority here. And so it's very important that people hear this out. We've also been hearing some very promising news about things like, oh, if someone's had their measles, mumps, rubella, MMR, if you've had your measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, you have some added protection against even coronavirus, which means, all this means take charge of your health. If your vaccines are waning, get your updates, get your booster shots. It's flu season. Our COVID numbers are out of control. The last thing you need is the flu. One, the flu can have a lot of symptoms that are confusing when it comes to distinguishing between the flu and COVID-19. One, two, beds are limited, hospital space is limited. The best thing you can do is to get your vaccine for the flu. Because even if you were to get sick, we know that people who get the flu vaccine get a milder illness if they were to become sick from the actual flu virus later on. And no, the shot doesn't give you the flu. Now, if you got the live attenuated flu virus, then yes, that is a weakened version of the flu. It's an intentional infection so that your immune system can remember what the virus looks like. But the flu shot, the one we give to pregnant patients, the one we give to patients 6 years and under, is not infectious. It doesn't have virus in it. It's a subunit vaccine. So it's important for you guys to know that. So I'm thankful for, like I said, the vaccines. I really do think we'll see some early candidates being rolled out to some of the highest risk people next year. But guys, it's going to take 1.5 to 3 years to get everybody vaccinated who wants to be vaccinated. And that's a big part of what's about to happen, is educating people about why they would want to be vaccinated, educating people so that we can debunk these myths. I think starting with your dinners tomorrow, if you're with your family and you're hearing people saying things that you know not to be true, that you know to be more conspiracy driven rather than fact based, have a conversation about it. Dr. Levine is saying, will the vaccine be a new requirement for airline travels, etc.? Well, we know for sure Qantas Airlines out of Australia, the CEO has already announced that they will require the vaccine, proof of vaccination before one were to travel, which I think makes sense. We're seeing very convincing data that there are people who are still becoming exposed and sick from long haul flights, meaning flights in excess of, I think, 6 hours, right? And that would make sense. For those of you who've ever been on a really long flight, it's air that's circulating. It's near impossible for anyone to do an 18 plus hour flight without falling asleep. when you fall asleep, you toss, you turn, your mask may slip off a bit, things happen. And so, yeah, someone can certainly become exposed, but they can also develop symptoms. And again, remember, someone may be exposed but not develop symptoms for days. We have one patient who, fortunately, we hadn't seen her in the office for 2.5 weeks, but when she contacted us during her 2.5 week interval, she had tested negative 3 times after a known and convincing exposure from someone who was positive, and she tested negative. And then on her 11th day of quarantine is when she finally tested positive. Her only symptoms were headache and some runny nose or something like that. She said she really didn't think it was anything because she'd already had 3 negative tests leading up to that day 11. So it's really important to know that. And so, yes, any flight you take that's long haul in particular, even if you're wearing your mask, etc., there's a chance you could be exposed on that flight. But also there's a chance you could be exposing people even if you tested negative before the flight, but had been exposed. So that's the truth there. What else do I want to share? So it's Thanksgiving. Like I said, stay safe out there. Talk to your family, talk to your friends, heed the warnings as best as possible. Would say to limit your gathering sizes. Your family members who are high risk, consider doing Zoom and virtual dinners instead of actually, getting together. Avoid things that require a lot of air movement, so the singing, the shouting, etc. I don't know how practical that is, to be honest. I think if people are in a small space and talking, whether you talk or you sing, you're going to expose each other. So it's more figuring out whether or not it's probably just safer not to get together this year. And I know people are going to be sad about it. I can tell my own mother, whom I haven't seen in person since, I want to say, May of this year. I could easily see her, saying, why? But, it's for everybody's safety in the long run. And so it's important to keep that in mind. Lastly, right, tomorrow and as we go into the holidays, it's a good time to talk to your family members, check in on everybody, see how everyone's doing. Don't assume that everybody's doing well. If you haven't heard from them, it's not because they're hating you or thinking they're better off without you. Try not to get into your emotions so deeply that you make it just about you. Ask them how they're doing. You guys probably saw the op-ed in the New York Times today from the Duchess, Meghan, and she talked about her pregnancy loss, but also just how rough the year's been, even for them, right? And she said, just the least you can do is ask people, are you okay? And that is so meaningful because a lot of people have stopped asking, are you okay? They were doing so in the beginning of the pandemic, but a lot of us have started easing back into our everyday normal patterns and we're not really asking, are you okay? So we need to ask, are you okay? We need to check in on our friends, check in on our family members, check in on the people who are usually your support system. They might need some support. If you're feeling great, check in on them, right? Don't just think, well, if I'm great, they're all great because they've always been great. Check in. Moments of fleeting darkness and loneliness and despair can overcome anyone at any time. Check in. Are you okay? Even if it's a text, hi, are you okay? That's going to go a long, long way. Well, guys, that's it for today. I'm not going to stay much longer. There's a lot to come in December from me, Dr. Cindy. There's really great news coming. There's a great publication coming. I have a lot of new blogs coming. My girl-powered lash line is finally available. I'm actually wearing one right now, so my lash system is here. And you guys will see that. Dr. Ian Levine says, so are you okay? Dr. Levine, I'm okay. I'm okay, but thank you for asking. Are you okay? I think it's really important that we do check in on each other, share love. Remember, hurt people do have the tendency to hurt others, but I implore you to maybe pause before you lash out. Pause if you know you're about to say unkind words. Just take a beat. Count to 3 seconds in your head as you ask, do I need to do this right now? I know that a lot of people, when hurt, the only way you think you'd feel better about how you're hurting is to hurt someone else, because you're like, they need to feel what I feel. But if all we do is perpetuate the cycle of hurt, we're not healing ourselves, that's for sure, but we're also not helping those around us. And so take care of yourselves. Don't hesitate to reach out. Again, see if everyone's okay. Even if you can't be around family, this isn't the fault of governors, and the facts are real. The numbers are rising. This isn't made up. People are dying, and people across all age groups are getting very sick. And it's not just about the people who die. Way more people are sick, and way more people are having what we call long-term symptoms. We've got to stay aware. Joanne Cummings says, my employer's daughter came home today. Within 20 minutes of her arrival, one of her friends she saw Friday night tested positive. He asked her to go back to her apartment. He can't take any risk for him and us, his workers. This is sad. She's spending Thanksgiving alone. Indeed. And I think that's the truth, right? It's very sad that some people will be spending Thanksgiving physically alone. And I think if you have family members for whom that is going to happen, be sure to surround them with gifts of love, food, check-in, call, video. We're in 2020. We have access to video recording devices so we can see people. Yes, the sense of touch is really important, and we've learned that this year, that as humans, we want touch. But even without that, check in. All right. And from Dr. Levine, he's saying, and to all, stay amazing too. Be optimistic and still yet wise and compassionate in the midst of all which is happening. Yes. I forgot to say, this year I actually became an ordained minister. I did it for me. It really was just for me, as I did some soul searching during the pandemic, and, really diving into my own soul and spirituality and healing and health, as I look to see how do I preserve my own self during a pandemic, because there's a lot of time to do introspection. I think if we're all honest, we've all had time to be introspective. And so it's very important for all of us to remember what's important to us, whether you're religious or not, whether you worship, and I mean worship, whatever you worship. If you worship the atmosphere, it's still okay. It's okay, but it's a sense of self of well-being, self of groundedness, and a sense of personal responsibility for the planet that we're on. So yeah. Anyway, to everybody, happy Thanksgiving. Gobble, gobble. I have a bunch of presents I'm going to open. I'll probably do some separate unboxing videos, because one of my friends sent me a long box, and then I've had some patients bring us a bunch of presents. Thank you, presents, for the amazing things that we were still able to help them accomplish this year in terms of their goals for family building. I'm very grateful also to my team outside of work. So I do have a team that now helps me with my social media and helps me with the work I do, even with my mom. Check out Mama Coco's Life and Style. She does have Live with Mama Coco that she does on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays on her page. She has her own Instagram following, Facebook page, and YouTube now. You can check out her older episodes there. And she's doing some pretty good work, I would say, for Coco and driving her dreams and interests forward. So everybody, get out there, show love, stay safe, wear your mask appropriately, cover the nose, make sure it's sealed, cover your eyes when you can. If you know you've been exposed, remain honest about it and don't expose others. And we'll see you guys. Bye.